Here we go. We're going last. All right, got it. All right. All right. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, everybody, to the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy. And using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, is the best way for you to exit highly appreciated cryptocurrency, businesses, primary residences, save a failed 1031 exchange to defer millions of dollars of capital gains tax so you can create and preserve more wealth or help your clients do the same. Hey, I'm your host, Brett Swarts, and each episode I'm joined by some of the best real estate, financial, crypto, wealth, and business minds in the world, where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. By the way, we're also streamed on expertcresecrets.com, so you can check us out there. And I also want to talk about and let you know that I'm coming out with my brand new book, Building a Tax Deferred Exit Strategy, the proven playbook for unlocking your ideal wealth plan when selling assets of any kind for yourself or your clients. Some amazing people in here, including Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank, Joe Fairless from Ashcroft Capital, and many, many others. And I want you to look for that. That's dropping here in about 30 days on Amazon and other places as well. Hey, I'm excited about our next guest. And I want to, he's out of the great state of Michigan, originally from California, but he's been in the financial service industry since 2015 after graduating with an undergraduate degree in entrepreneurship from Grove City College, looks like Pennsylvania, I believe here. It was it was a while in college where he first discovered and was exposed to business owners and investors who were actively implementing the investment optimizer strategies, which launched much of his own financial education and passion to serve fellow entrepreneurs and business owners. He began his practice in 2016 with many of the same ideals and strategies as the Money Insights team. He's a part of Money Insights. Please welcome to the show with me, Blake Brogan. Hey, Blake, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Brett. Excited to be here. I've been listening to some of your shows and get some great strategies. And first time I'm hearing about your book, so I'll be excited to check that out when it comes out.
Thanks, Blake. And for our listeners getting to know you for the first time, would you give us a little bit more about your story and your current focus?
Yeah. And you said some good things in the intro there about my story. It really, for me, started back in my youth. I've always loved business. I've loved entrepreneurship. I love learning from people who have started and implemented businesses. So I did go to college. That was kind of a passion of mine to study entrepreneurship. So found one of the schools at the time in the country that was offering that as a major. While I was there, I was introduced to some pretty unique people, and some of them taught me about some of the strategies that I'm using now. So as I got out of college, started in business, it was a passion of mine to grow business, and that's where I wanted to generate wealth. And so for me, it was looking for a place of where do I save my money? So I started using some of the strategies that we help entrepreneurs and business owners use today, cash flow investors. So I just started using it myself, got passionate about the things that it was doing in my life, and found some of the best people in the industry who had been doing it for years in the Money Insights team, and joined them, and have been able to work with some pretty unique individuals ever since. So it's been a blessing to do things that I've been passionate about for such a long time.
Fantastic. And by the way, you can learn more about Blake Brogan by going to moneyinsights.net. That's moneyinsights.net. Blake, before we dive into some of the ways that high net worth income earners can become high net worth individuals, I want to take one other step back. I believe we've all been given certain gifts in this life. Some people call them strengths. Some people call them superpowers. I believe they're God-given gifts and been given to us to be a blessing and help to others. I'm curious, what are those one or two gifts that you believe you were given? And maybe go back to the high school days, before when you were younger. And how do those help how you help and bless people today?
That's a great question, actually. And the timing of it is pretty unique. Even this weekend, I was hosting a men's retreat type of thing at our church. There was a lot of things there that I didn't really want to do, didn't have skills in. And I was just kind of reflecting on the ways that we've been created individually and with unique talents, and people enjoy doing the things that I don't enjoy doing, which I found super cool, and was just actually thinking about that this weekend. But for me, answering your question specifically, I've always enjoyed coaching, teaching, educating. Even now I've coached high school basketball. I coach a high school golf team now. I have younger kids, so I've taught some, tennis clinics, things like that for younger kids. So I enjoy, think about golf. it's a pretty complex game. Anyone who's tried to do it knows it's not that simple. But if you can just kind of get the fundamentals right, I think one of the skill sets I've been blessed with is I try to help people take complex ideas, make them simple. If we understand the basics, the fundamentals, you can fill the details in later. I think I have some skills in doing that. And then even with what we do today, the strategies that we help business owners, cash flow investors utilize are oftentimes they don't know about them, or they're not talked about in the mainstream, the products and strategies. So if just understanding the basics of what's going on in how it solves problems, I think is something that I've been able to use to translate to what I do today.
Excellent. So making complex simple, educating, teaching, coaching. I love the basketball. That's one of my passions in life. We can talk about that more a little bit later. But let's dive right into the show right now. What's the number one secret, Blake, to helping high income earners become high net worth individuals?
That's a great question. And one of the primary strategies that we teach at Money Insights is again aimed at high income earners, and oftentimes it's people in the business owner, the cash flow investor space, right? So probably a lot of your listeners, people who are investing things that are more alternative, bringing cash flow back into your life. One of the primary strategies that we use, as people are flowing money in and out of investments, they may love the things that they're investing in, the businesses that they're growing, how they can utilize their skills to enhance whatever they're doing. But one of the natural inefficiencies that's there is as money sitting on the sideline, right? So as cash flow comes in, there's just a natural inefficiency with where most people are storing their money today. So most people are just flowing money in and out of typical bank accounts where you have liquidity, you have safety, but really beyond that, there's no tax benefits, there's no growth. And so the investment optimizer is really just a way to optimize what people are already doing from an investment standpoint. And so one of the strategies that we talk about is using a very special type of life insurance policy just as an alternative place to flow money in and out of in between investments. So again, going back to the idea that, right, we have a bank account with safety and liquidity. Well, with these very specially designed life insurance policies, and I might back up just to say these life insurance policies might not be necessarily what you've heard about on the radio or other places. They're more designed not for the death benefit, but the living benefits, you could say. So we can store money in these policies where we have that same safety and liquidity, but we can earn a significantly higher return. There's some tax benefits. Depending on where you live, there's some creditor protection, and we can maybe jump more into it. But the unique part is we're actually, when we utilize this as what we refer to as an opportunity fund, so exchanging these sort of strategies for a bank account, you can actually create value and create returns in multiple places really at the exact same time.
Okay, got it. So using life insurance as a way to make sure that cash is not sitting idle, call it lazy money or sleepy money, right? Yeah. Sitting in cash, not making a lot of return, naturally inefficient, and that also have some living benefits, some creditor protections, and maybe some tax incentives to do that. Is that a fair summary so far?
Yeah, I'd say that's a really good one.
Excellent. What's number two secret to helping high income earners become high net worth individuals?
Yeah, so we talk a lot about the value of velocity and of leverage, keeping our money moving for us. You can create a lot of, you can get pretty far if you're a prolific saver, but when you can add leverage onto the saving that you're already doing, if you're a prolific saver, that's where we can really start to see some results. So we teach some alternative strategies, again, more geared towards high income earners. Let's say you're not down the business owner cash flow investor route. You want to go more the traditional retirement plan. We teach strategies where you can go down that route, but actually add leverage onto retirement accounts using some bank financing just to take the saving that you're already doing, add another layer of profitability. And really at the end of the day, you're able to create more income using some of these strategies than maybe just going down the typical 401k IRA route, especially if taxes are a big thing. You want to explore how to create some high tax, high income that's tax exempt or tax free. There's some strategies that we teach along those routes as well.
Okay, cool. So let's talk about the tax part of it. So what's the number one secret to using these life insurance policies to make sure that you're being tax efficient?
Yeah. So from a tax perspective, these accounts are very much like a Roth IRA. So the money that's going into the policies is after tax dollars. Then you can grow that money tax deferred. And then the unique way that we utilize it or we leverage it is that you can access the money tax free. So again, think of it from a tax perspective, much like a Roth IRA where after tax dollars are going in. Then after that, we have tax free use of the money anytime after that. So essentially what the strategy boils down to, again, if your money's flown in and out of a bank account, which is what most investors that we talk to now, you're not getting many tax benefits. We don't even really think about that often because the returns that we're getting in a bank account are so low right now. But these strategies allow you to earn, roughly 4 or 5% tax free. And then we can leverage those policies to be able to go invest in the things that we were already going to invest in anyways, but we're just doing so in a way that, again, gets you that multiple rates of return on the exact same dollar.
Got it. Okay. So you pay the tax on whatever that you earned, then you throw into this life insurance policy, and then it's growing. And then like a Roth, any of the growth is all tax free. Is that right?
Yeah. So technically it grows tax deferred, but then you can access it tax free. So very much exactly what you're saying.
Okay, because a Roth would be like tax free, right? Because if I put $100,000 into a Roth and it grows to $1 million, and as long as they wait till I'm a certain age, I walk out. I don't have to pay any taxes on that. So that I don't. Okay. The second one would be you can leverage against it. Is that what you're referring to? So you would borrow against your policy and to borrow your own funds. Is that another way to put it?
Sort of. So we think of it as like there's 2 buckets of money, right? So think about if I grow my bank account because I want to invest in some real estate project, right? I'm just growing that bank account. I liquidate the money, put the funds into the investment, kicks off cash flow, right? Rinse and repeat. With the life insurance policies, it actually works a little bit differently where we're putting money in, it's growing, it's compounding, it's got all those benefits I kind of mentioned. But then when it comes time to access the funds, as opposed to liquidating the cash that we have in the policies, what you're able to do is borrow against it. So it's very much like a home equity line of credit, where you get access to a much bigger bucket of funds. And that's really the funds of the life insurance company. So they will allow you to borrow their money. And then what you're essentially doing is using their capital, your capital serving as collateral. Now we got access to another pool of money, another bucket, you could say, and we deploy that into the investments that we were going to do anyways. Now the unique part.
Pause. So let's say I have $1 million, right? And I pay a tax on it, it's sitting in my bank account, and I go, I'm going to go put it all into this life insurance policy, right?
Yep.
How much can I leverage of that million? Can I get $1.5 million? Is it 900,000? How much the next day could I use for that to go put on a down payment for a real estate property?
That's a great question. So as we're putting money into the policies, oftentimes we structure it so you're putting it in on an annual basis. But let's say you want to put $1 million day one, Brett, just in your example. So the way that the policies are structured, there are some costs. Some of the fees are front loaded, cost of the death benefit. These are life insurance policies at the end of the day. So let's say you could probably, in your example, you could maybe have access to about $800,000 of the $1 million is what you could leverage the next day.
At what percentage?
Right about 95%. So I was factoring that in. So let's say I put $1 million in, I have access to, let's call it.
You pay the fees, net after fees and everything. You have 800,000. Okay.
Yep.
And then what are you borrowing? At what percentage are you borrowing that 800 at?
About 95% is what the insurance companies will.
No. Like what interest rate? Like what are they charging me?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I misunderstood your question. Yeah. So right now they're charging about 5%. So okay. Our policies are growing at about 5%, and you're borrowing against them at right about 5%.
Okay, so you could technically argue that it's kind of a wash. You because as long as it's growing at 5, and you can put in some very safe stuff. Is that, or what would you think there, Blake? Am I missing that?
No, so on the surface, that's certainly what it appears, right? So if my money's growing at 5, I'm borrowing at 5. Some of the questions, the initial question I would think of is, how am I really getting ahead by doing that? Well, let's take your example, Brett. If I got $1 million, it's growing, it's compounding, right? Because I leveraged the capital to go do my investing, I never actually stopped the compounding of my money, right?
Of the million or the 800? Of
the million. So I got $1 million. It's in this policy. It's compounding at roughly about 5%. If we look at, long term, I'm borrowing. I got access to the insurance company's money. I can borrow that. I go invest that into things that I was going to invest in anyway. So I'm paying them 5%. So as cash flow is getting kicked off my deal, I'm just using that to kind of repay the loan. So the unique part about that is really the sauce of the secret sauce of the strategy is in this difference between compounding versus simple interest. So my money continues to compound, and as long as I'm at least repaying the interest on the policy loans, it's a simple interest loan. So we have examples. If you want to check it out, you can go to moneyinsights.net. We have an education center, and we go into these in detail, really just kind of breaking down the math behind the strategy. But using your example, let's say I had $1 million and it was compounding for me at 5% over 20 years. I would grow that to about 1.65 million. You're using actually a scale of exact situation that I use often. So I'd grow that to about 1.65 if I never repaid any loan. And if I borrowed against the insurance policy, use the insurance company's money, flowed that back in, I would be paying about $600,000 of interest. So at the end of the day, I'm in your example, I'd be adding about $100,000 of interest using the strategy that I wouldn't have got had I just flowed money in and out of the bank account. And I know running through some of these numbers can be a little confusing. Again,
no, it's fine. It's good. My listeners are pretty, they're very sophisticated and smart with investments. I got to be honest, Blake, I still haven't found that real estate, commercial, multifamily investor, value add, 5, 10, 15, $20 million client that's doing this. And here's what I think is the reason, and maybe you can help us understand that what we're missing here, right? Yeah. So I put $1 million into this policy, of which I get access to $800,000 at 5%, versus I put $1 million on a property as a down payment. I go borrow another $800,000 at 3.5%, right? That's what the commercial rates are going for, approximately maybe 4%. And I use that to earn wealth there in cash flow, and I paid it down at 3.5%. And then I 1031 exchange into the next property, and I just keep doing that. In other words, I'm seeing it. I'm losing $200,000 of purchasing power on not being able to add that to our down payment, which right now loans are about could be 65 to 70% LTV, right? Okay. So for every $100,000 that are going, it's not as a down payment, I'm losing the ability to leverage up even more, right? And buy more property. So I don't know why I would do that if I could go do what I just said. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Great question. Couple thoughts that come to mind as you're explaining that. So the first thing is we're not looking to leverage. We're using this investment optimizer as a way to use whatever you are using cash for. So we're not saying this is a better way to finance any of the properties or projects that you're doing. So you got to come up with money somewhere, right, to be able to put into the deal. So we would say, okay, utilize the investment optimizer for the part that you need to come up with cash for, and then use a bank loan just like you would typically. Now, another strategy or another thought there is for certain, there's some front end costs. So if you're looking at this in your example, Brett, I'm doing one deal and then I'm going to do some more deals after that. If you're looking at this over a short term, it's not going to be a win. So this is certainly a long-term strategy. So if you're someone who's like, I want to be in this game, flowing money in and out of investments for a long time, this is going to be a strategy to take a look at, because let's say we're 4 or 5 years into this policy. I put $1 million a year into the policy. Well, after 2-3 years, if I put $1 million in, my policy is growing by 1.1 million, then 1.2 million, then 1.6 million, right? And on it goes. So yes, we're not going to have access to as much money day one, but if you look at it over the long term, you're going to have certainly significant amount of value in your opportunity fund than you would have had just flowing money in and out of a bank account. And again, I might point you back. Yeah, just for one thing is point you back to we have videos on our website that take into that exact scenario. So I think on our website, we have it where if I'm putting $100,000, if I wanted to put 100K into a deal, why would I not just put 100K directly in versus flowing it through a life insurance policy? Because I'm only going to have access to like 80K right away. And so we run through those examples. We look at it over a long period of time.
Perfect. Go to moneyinsights.net, right? Moneyinsights.net and check that out. Yeah. So let's shift a little bit. How, if any, does the life insurance policy help with capital gains tax deferral? Is there any way, if I'm selling cryptocurrency for $10 million, right, that I could use some kind of life insurance policy to help defer the capital gains tax on the exit? Or is it only just buying it to offset, future when I die? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So anything that you do outside of the policy, the taxes are going to remain the same. So for your question specifically, it's not going to help me with capital gains tax. That's where I'd probably point them back to a show like yours or someone else to learn some alternative strategies. So from the tax perspective, it's only within the policy.
Okay. What about estate tax? So I
That's a
know
great question.
in the past for ultra high net worth individuals, right? 22 million married, 12 million single approximately. And anything above and beyond those exemptions, you're subject to 40% debt tax, right? Nothing to do with stepped up basis, nothing to do with capital gains tax, completely separate, right? So the goal is to get it outside the taxable estate. The challenge is you typically can't get it out fast enough, too much planning or gifting. You can't get it out or give it all the way to charity. People don't want to give it all the way to charity. So they look at life insurance as a way to buy a big old policy so that when the payment is due upon death, which is typically 6 months after the family passes, then you're using that to pay off because it's tax free. Is that a fair summary there? What would you add to that, using life insurance as a way to extinguish the estate tax challenge?
That's a great, you explained it very well. The one clarification I would make, that death benefits. So what's interesting is we're talking about all the living benefits using this as an opportunity fund to enhance our investing. The reality is you do create some pretty large death benefits along the way that you're really not paying for in any other way. Now, as that death occurs and those are paid, that death benefit is paid to your heirs, your beneficiaries, your children, income tax free. So it's not estate tax free. Now, for individuals who have those large estate tax issues, life insurance, the permanent death benefit is really one of the best ways to pay for that need. So you're not going to get estate tax benefits necessarily from the death benefit, but it can be certainly used as a way for ultra high net worth.
So let's pause. So I buy a life insurance policy that has a $50 million death benefit, right?
Yep.
And my kids, I die. Okay. Kids get $50 million income tax free, but that $50 million is still inside of their taxable estate, correct?
Yes. Yeah. So that would go on to, that would add to your estate tax.
So it's kind of helping, but it's not all the way solving. Okay, that's a good nuance because I'm learning something new on this one. By the way, we have something called the Deferred Sales Trust Plus, and I'll just give you a deal story for our listeners who are wondering about this. And this is part of why we believe the Deferred Sales Trust is superior to life insurance. And Blake, I'm happy to hear your counter to this, is because upon the exit of the asset, all of the funds can move outside the taxable estate without giving it away to charity and without having to buy a life insurance policy, so that upon passing, all of the assets pass capital gains tax and estate tax free, okay, which includes income tax free. It's no income either. It's all of it. It's because it's outside of the taxable estate, right? And so here's the deal for a client. They're worth about $30 million or so. All of it's inside of the taxable estate. They're traditional real estate folks, multifamily investors. And they were selling a $5 million asset in Colorado. And part of the reason they chose to use the Deferred Sales Trust was because A, it deferred the capital gains tax, but B, it moved it outside the taxable estate. All in one day, no life insurance, done. And so 2 million of 5 is, 40% of 2 million is 40% of 5 million is 2 million. It's gone. It's just out. Like, we just added that much value in one single day. So what would be the counter to that? Why would somebody not use that? Or why? And by the way, it doesn't mean you can't also supplement with life insurance, because we do work with life insurance professionals where now we take that 5 million and we get all of the income that's producing on that, and they receive that and they use that to go buy life insurance. So they get even, it's kind of like have your cake and eat it too. Get even an extra bonus there. Is that making sense, Blake?
It is. So one of the things that I would not counter, but just add to what you're saying is that you can use the beneficiary from a life insurance policy can be a trust. So you can have this windfall and then use a trust to do all the strategies that you were talking about. So I wouldn't position it as it's A versus B. Why would I do this versus that? I would say, okay, how can we potentially, I'm sure there's many factors on individual circumstances, but how could we utilize this to enhance essentially the strategies that you were already doing? So most of I wouldn't say most, a significant portion of our clients have trusts set up as the beneficiaries for their life insurance policies upon their death.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, we kind of have to geek out on individual circumstances on that and get into the weeds on the ones. And just to clarify, the deferred sales trust is not like a living trust where it's just passing to heirs and avoiding probate. It's literally a business trust, very unique. There's thousands of different types of trust. And a lot of times people go, well, I already have it in the trust. Aren't I good? No. You got to use a deferred sales trust upon sale, set up prior to exit and the taxable estate. So awesome. Okay, let's shift a little bit into investments, right? So a lot of our listeners are also cryptocurrency or real estate folks, right? Yep. So you mentioned the different investments, this 5%, people want to get 10, 15, 20, 30% or more. So can the investments inside of the life insurance policy be different things, or does it really need to be the super conservative stuff that's all fixed and honestly kind of sleepy and kind of boring for most of our listeners?
Certainly. And if I say to you, hey, Brett, I got an opportunity for you to put money in a place that's going to earn 5%, even though it's tax-free, you're going to be like, come on, I can do a lot better, right? We teach a lot of strategies that can do a lot better than that. So I think the key to understanding that is a life insurance policy is not an investment at all. It's just a storage vehicle for cash. It's a way to flow money in and out of the investing that you're already doing and use it to add a layer of profitability. So let's take your example. If I'm a crypto investor, right? I'm putting money into these cryptocurrencies. If those are kicking out cash flow, that money's got to go somewhere into another opportunity fund to store up before doing it again. So these life insurance policies are simply an additional layer of profitability. So as opposed to just taking dollars, again, directly going into the investing that we're going to do, hopefully earning 10, 20, 30, 100% rate of return, right? We're utilizing this as really, it's almost like a pass through. So as money goes into the policy, we gather all the benefits that we would get from life insurance, and we have access to the capital right away that we could go leverage to go invest in the things that we were already going to do anyway. So as opposed to just having our money earning whatever rate of return we're getting in our investments, we're simply utilizing this as a way to earn an additional rate of return on top of whatever we were doing.
Okay, cool. I appreciate it, Blake. Let's move to the number one biggest frustration that your clients have when it comes to capital gains tax deferral with cryptocurrency, businesses, primary homes, real estate. What is it? Maybe you have a deal story or two. Maybe you get calls from people talking about this. But what's the biggest frustration you're facing when talking with high income and high net worth individuals?
Yeah. And I think you probably provide a solution to this, but a lot of times it's what are my options, right? So if I think of 1031 as my only option of the ways that I can, utilize capital gains tax to my advantage or avoid paying it, oftentimes we're starting with, okay, am I putting money into this investment purely for the tax benefits, or am I able to actually look at it holistically and say, okay, is this going to be a good value for me overall? And I'm just going to link that back to the investment optimizer. One of the problems a lot of people talk to us about is like, okay, I love what I'm doing from the investment standpoint. I like the opportunities that are coming my way. However, I got this money in between deals. It's not really doing anything for me. With inflation, it feels like it's burning a hole in my pocket, right? So by having our money in a place where we're earning significantly higher returns, it's kind of like, Brett, what you were saying, if we don't feel like we need to get our capital into an investment right away, it allows us to kind of step back, say, okay, analyze this. I'm not losing as much money due to inflation just eroding the value of my dollar. Is this the best place for me to be investing and storing my capital?
Yeah, it's a safe harbor, right? And there's different reasons to use different vehicles, right? Just like there's a reason to do opportunity zones, do 1031 exchanges, Delaware Statutory Trust, Charitable Remainder Trust, and Deferred Sales Trust. The question is which option works best for you? And exactly right, Blake, most people just don't know, or their trusted advisors don't know that there's something beyond a 1031 exchange, right? By the way, a 1031 exchange only works for investment real estate. It doesn't work for cryptocurrency. It doesn't work for primary homes. It doesn't work for business sales, right? In fact, they're talking about taking it away entirely. Now, I don't think it's going to happen. It looks like it's going to stay, but there are those who want to take it away completely and not even give that option. So we just helped a cryptocurrency owner $5 million Bitcoin sale. She bought it for $50,000. It went to $50 million, and she didn't want to exit anything because of the tax Also, she didn't have a great outcome for where she was going to put the money. So with the Deferred Sales Trust, it was that bridge to defer the tax and also be able to fund her next business venture. By the way, if you're wondering all about any of this stuff, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. It's capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. We have our free ebook, Sell Your Business, Real Estate, or Cryptocurrency Smarter. It's the 9 steps to help you execute on your Deferred Sales Trust transaction and get clarity on what it is, how it works, all of the above. Go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. That being said, Blake, we're running out of time. You ready for the lightning round?
Let's do it.
All right. Knowing what you know now, if you go back to your, we'll call it your 20-year-old self, because you're looking, you might be only 25 or 20. I don't know how old you are. How old are you, Blake?
31.
All right, cool. Going back to your 25-year-old self, what's the one golden nugget you make sure to tell yourself to do?
Get yourself surrounded by people who you envy or trust or want to become like. I think one of the best things that's happened for myself personally, family, business-wise, getting around the right people.
Excellent. Number 2, what's the number 1 book you've recommended or gifted the most in the past year?
Traction.
Number 3, what's the one leadership quote or theme that you strive to live by?
Leadership quote. I'm going to pass on that, Brett. I'm sorry. I don't have one ready for you.
It could also be a theme, right? It doesn't have to be like an exact quote. It could be like, oh, this is kind of like a thing, do unto others as you have others do unto you. It could be, something. Anything come to mind?
What comes to mind is find ways to serve people the best.
There it is. Next question. What are you most curious about right now?
Cryptocurrencies. That's something that I'm looking into a lot more. You probably have a lot more clients who do it. I have not dove in, I should say, at the level a lot of people have. I'm very curious as what's happening.
Absolutely. Next question, or second to last question. No, actually, this is the last question. Here we go. After all your success, Blake, helping the people you've helped, helping people take from high income earners to high net worth individuals, life insurance, all the cool things that you're doing, how do you stay centered in your values? And how do you stay encouraged to charge forward to reach new heights?
I trust the Lord. I tried not to, I think humility is a big thing. I've had some successes. I've had some failures. Remembering that everything that we have been given is a gift, and use those gifts. Like the second question that you asked me in this, try to find ways to use your gifts, to serve others.
Fantastic, Blake. I want to thank you for being on the show. I want to encourage you to keep using the gifts and talents you've been giving, but making complex things simple, and also coaching, teaching, and educating people and helping them to create and preserve more wealth in life insurance and everything else that you guys are doing over at Money Insights. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, would you remind them one last time what's the best place for them to connect with you?
You can go to moneyinsights.net. I would also encourage you to check out our podcast, the Money Insights Podcast. We teach a lot of strategies for high income earners who are looking to grow their wealth.
Fantastic. Thanks, Blake, for being on the show. And also want to thank our listeners for listening to another episode of the Capital Gains Tax Solutions Podcast, also streaming on expertcresecrets.com, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them, they struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, is the best way for you to exit and defer millions of dollars in capital gains tax on the sale of cryptocurrency, businesses, or real estate, so you can create and preserve more wealth or help your clients do the same. Please rate, review, subscribe to our YouTube channel, to our podcast, wherever you might be consuming this content. Please share this with somebody who can inspire and help today. We so appreciate everyone out there in the wide world of the web and all the social media channels, and we wish everybody a great rest of your day.